pjnet.tv. Jake McCandless on the road that now has signal and battery, I'm told. We're going to count it down to Studio 12, starting now. All right, welcome to pjnet.tv. I'm Coach Prasick, and we do this to provide a platform for everyday Christians to share their walk with Christ, although there's not much every day about Jake. How far did you have to drive to find some cell phone signal where you're at?
So I'm coming to you from my truck parked outside of our home group where we're having a Bible study. And so we have this typically on Wednesdays, but we've had to do some Tuesday nights. And so when we do, I set up ahead of time in my studio, and I leave, I hand it over, the study over, and then I race home and hop on. Well, some reason my phone it wasn't getting messages, and so I did not get the emails. I'm like, well, maybe I had the date wrong. So,
okay.
So anyway, this
at least
is cool. So beautiful day.
At least baseball season is over. We don't have rain delays and things like that keep you out of town. But well, Jake, we only got a few minutes left. I saw on your Facebook page that you and Kyle Young were on a podcast together. Was that his idea or yours?
I recruited him. So, I'm, I guess, about 2 months out of every 2 weeks, a new episode coming out for my podcast, Stand Firm Parents. And so my journey through Stand Firm, it's been encouraging people to remain faithful. And so we've decided to take that from a parent point of view. How do we help families have a faith that lasts? And it's been a really cool journey because when you look at the statistics, the amount of children and teens raised in church, even Christian homes, who leave the faith, when you see the statistics, it's terrible. And so it's like, how can we do this different? And so, we've been sharing them along my journey. And the thing that one of the biggest things, and we've talked about this before, that I am convinced that helps people, stay faithful, remain, stand firm, remain faithful, is being on mission, to be, about the Great Commission, to be involved in missions, to be involved in disciple making and those things. Another way to put it, as I ran across in Donald Miller's book, A Million Miles in 1,000 Years, he tells a story of this dad of a teenager just beside himself because his daughter's going in the wrong direction. And Donald told his friend, you need to give her a better story. And so that dad went out and he signed the family up to start an orphanage in Mexico. And so they began raising money, began going on trips, began doing that. And his daughter just completely made decisions to do the right things on her own because she had a better story to live. And that's really, to me, has been some of the best parenting advice, as far as, helping our kids have a faith that lasts, is to give them a better story. So all that said was, I brought Kyle on, who's my agent, I know represents many out there watching, and brought him on and asked him the question, what makes a great story? Now, I'm a nonfiction writer, so I don't know what I thought the answer would be, but his answer was conflict.
Conflict.
And it really...
I knew it. I saw it coming.
It's totally screwed me up. I was not planning for that answer, but but it's really shaken how I think of parenting and how I approach it, because so much of Christian parenting here in the States is to shelter and protect our kids from challenges, from difficulty. But if you're going to have a great story, like he said, it all comes down to conflict. He shared from one of the writing conferences that there was a class that said, kill the bunnies, that you have to have conflict. You can't have a story about, just bunnies, running around in the yard and that's it. There's got to be someone trying to kill them, or, some type of conflict for the story. And when you think about that for our lives, when you think about that as, parents, what we're trying to impart, you think about it as a pastor, helping people develop a greater, step into a greater story, and the main key is conflict. I don't know. To me, that just really changed my perspective. If anybody's had a chance to listen to it, it's the worst interview I've ever done, because at the first question, he totally went in a direction I didn't plan on it, and it was disastrous. And but it's really given me a lot of food for thought.
Well, as always, I would lay let's not say blame, but accountability. Our church culture is caught up in tickling ears, prosperity, blessings. God loves you, and those things. So many of those things are true, but we shelter our Christians and lead them to believe that we're going to pray away our problems and problems are not going to visit us, and that's not real. God didn't promise that, and I would even argue that if you're being an effective Christian, you're going to have a target on your back.
Yes. Oh, absolutely. And one of the things I found in my research is Barna Research did a study like of why students are leaving the faith. Not just the number that they are, but why. And the top two answers blew my mind. The first one was, and it was I can't remember the percentages, but it was a very large percentage.
Well, this was what happens when you use a cell phone. Sure. As the conduit for. Okay. Well, I've got so much encouraging news. I'm gonna put something else up here. If we're able to get Jake back, we'll bring him right back on. I hope that you will stay tuned for our guest at the bottom of the hour. I'm hoping that we'll retrieve Jake, but if not, Judy Taylor is coming our way at the bottom of the hour, and I had a wonderful talk with her. Yeah, see, he's back. Jake, anytime these kind of things happen, I try to make an announcement, and I never get to the announcement. But anyway, that's okay.
I'm having to be quick to the draw to try to get back on. But so I was talking about the Barna Research. The first answer, this blew me away. They asked these young adults who had left the church why, and they said because the church did not take enough risk. That it was like risk adverse. That they didn't see enough risk within the church body. And number two is that the church would not deal with issues, political issues, current events, and connect it to faith. And so, they're talking about faith over here, but then they go to school, they go to life, they turn on the news, and you're hearing these issues, and the church is not connecting the two. Yeah.
Jake, now how old do you think these respondents were? Those are mature and profound answers from young people.
They were. I was blown away. No, it was, young adult, college age.
Okay.
Well, 22, 25 range.
I think we need to hear them. I think we need to listen, because that is a clarion call. Because I fight this battle. You summed up so well. They watch, they consume the culture either in social media or television, however they're doing it, and all they hear is about the polarized, the conflict, the sensationalized news, and yet they go to church and the church is silent. And I do want to put you on the spot. I think that churches are afraid. Well, they are afraid that they can't engage politically because they'll lose their 501c3, to which I would say, great, you should have never been in it anyway.
As being in that spot myself, as a pastor, I've not heard pastors talk about losing that, but definitely are concerned about losing people. And the idea of you can compartmentalize it. You can say, okay, we're going to talk about faith this way, not deal with this, and we don't have to pick a side, and we don't have to offend somebody, because in our prevailing model of church, if you have few people leave and giving goes down, ministries can't be done, buildings can't be maintained. I mean, I just know in just my small situation, I experienced that pressure as a pastor, and it's not like, trying to skip and not talk about something, but you can't avoid it without just outright feeling like you're avoiding it, if that makes sense. And I feel like that's where a lot are. And I think if you read into what those kids were saying or young adults were saying, is the church is also shallow in how we deal with things. You know,
Okay. We'll continue with our announcement. I just got some great news today, and I wanted to share it with you. And you're going to get more great news. I'll be honest, folks. Ministry can be tough. He's back. I'll keep trying. I'll get to that announcement after the next guest is off the air. That's.
I'm sorry.
I'm like you,
No,
Jake.
no, no.
I've always got something to talk about. Hey, listen, we're going to wrap it up soon. I wanted to just toss you something that just out of the blue, and I'll make kind of a confession. I have become so disenchanted with church culture that I stopped going to church. Well, I was working on the weekends, but then I wasn't working on the weekends, and I never went back to church. Well, I went back to church, and I heard something that resonated that I've never heard in church before. What if Jesus came back and the rapture occurred? How many millions and millions and millions of dollars would be in the bank accounts and savings accounts of our churches? And Jesus would say, I didn't come back for this. The enterprise of the church is important. We need to be good stewards. But I'm afraid that we're modeling ourselves after businesses, but we're also modeling ourselves after education. And I'm not sure that that's touching lives. I'm not, that doesn't sound engaging to me.
And it's not the model we see from Jesus. We see from the disciples. I'm reading a book right now that is totally blowing my mind. It's called the Starfish and the Spirit. So there's a secular book called the Spider and the Starfish, which talks about building organizations that are leaderless, flat organizations, not hierarchy, and how empowering people within business to be rich in the Spirit is taking it and putting it in a church context, and it is tremendous. Just totally reshaping my thinking. God's been on a journey of doing that anyway, but this has just been a huge catalyst. And looking at exactly what you're saying, basically how the model that we've taken as church, it's not just like it's not working. Like, I don't mean like pragmatically, but it's not equipping and being a catalyst for believers to go out and live out their faith and to be involved. But rather, it makes spectators, and then we turn around and complain about everybody being spectators. But that's what the system creates. And I encourage you, if anybody wanted to dive into that, to check it out. It's called the Starfish and the Spirit. The reason that says the starfish is because it talks about starfish are, you can cut whatever it is, a triangle off of it, and it's going to regenerate. It's going to regrow, but it's also going to keep functioning. Versus like a spider, if you chop the head off it, even though there's 8 legs, the spider dies. And because we build hierarchy systems within church, top-down type systems, with that.
Gosh, he's got some good stuff. Okay, maybe he'll make it back one more time. Yeah, there he is. You're back. You killed the spider.
And so, the idea of like a starfish, in terms of you're empowering, and everybody has an opportunity to actively lead out and participate in the body. Mind blowing. It's really something that's heavy on my heart. So it's interesting you threw this out of the blue.
Well, finish that book, and I'd like to talk more, because I don't know many pastors that I can talk to the way I talk to you, because you're younger, and I think you get it. That you're not, you are a maverick. You are your own brand, and you are receptive to new ideas. And these, by the way, aren't new ideas. It's just they're actually very old.
No, it's getting back to the original ideas, I think.
Yeah. Well, Jake, get back to your home Bible study. Glad to know that you're doing this in a non-institutional, casual environment, and we'll look forward to hearing more about your starfish and your spiders and your scorpions and whatever tales you may have to tell next month. But hey, I love you, brother, and thank you for joining us tonight, and we'll see you next time.
All right. Thank you, Mark.
All right. You're a good man. Thank you. Jake McCandless here on pjnet.tv. And boy, it's almost the bottom of the hour. In just a moment, Judy Taylor will be joining us, and she is a first-time guest. And you know what? Well, you're going to enjoy it. And I do have some really wonderful news to share with you. But I got to change to the studio and all that. So for now, just consider this. What is the boldest thing that you've ever done for Jesus Christ? And how long ago was that? And the challenge is to not be satisfied with either answer.